Hello! Today I wanted to walk you through one of my first case study projects together. Note that this is in no way the Bible to how portfolio case studies should be made, or even like a template to this at all. This is just me being super vulnerable with my super imperfect case study that I put together in my earlier UX career. It's something that you could reference as one of your resources. For some context, I worked on this right after I completed my part-time General Assembly course, which if you're considering this at all, and if you want a review of this, I'll link my review video in the description box below. And this case study project was completed while I was still working full-time at the Home Depot, pre-UX career, working in digital marketing and advertising. Back then, if you saw my video about how I got started in UX research, you will remember that I wanted to transfer internally within the Home Depot to a UX team at the Home Depot. So I networked a whole lot, I had a few mentors, and then I did this case study project on my own with the problem that I personally experienced at the headquarters. I have my case study project right here with me, so let's get going. I started this case study in a PowerPoint format, and then in order to include it in my portfolio website, I converted it into a blog style post as well. Honestly, I'm gonna just repeat that format does not matter. If you just want to quickly put a PowerPoint deck together, or if you want to just write it in a Google Doc, if you want to like write a post within your Medium page, that works as well. You know, if you want to put a video together on YouTube and put it on YouTube, that also works perfectly fine. Just know that most hiring managers will request case studies in one format or another. A lot of people use portfolio and case study interchangeably, but portfolio is kind of like a folder, and then within it you're gonna have case study projects separately. So most people have at least like 2 to 3 different case study projects within your portfolio. If you need a step-by-step guide on how to create a website version of your portfolio together, I have a video about that, and I'll link that video here as well. Same with the format of your portfolio or your case study projects. The flow of your case study project also is not fixed or is not templated at all. I'm showing you my version of the flow today, but once again, don't use this as a guide. Use this as one of your resources to see how somebody else put their case study projects together. I'm honestly not a big fan of structured templates, and that's because the flow and the structure really depends on the story you're trying to tell. You might want to reference this as one of your cookie cutter templates and presentations that boot camps teach you how to do, but I'm telling you, feel free to be creative with your case study projects. Alright, so as we get in, a big giant disclaimer is that this was not done with the Home Depot. This work has absolutely no relation to Home Depot or my employment there or my time there at all. So let's jump right into my early days case study project that got me my first few UX research jobs. Alright, so let's get started. I put this together in a presentation format to begin with, but I also had it in the Google Doc format as well as the blog style post within my portfolio website as well. So at the very beginning, I included title of the project and product, when it was held, and my name, of course. And another thing that I would like to do is to include what I was responsible for on the project and what the general timeline was to complete this project. When I put this case study project together, it was at the very beginning of my UX career, and I was still working in my old non-UX job, and I personally didn't know if I wanted to go into the design route or research route. I kind of just knew that my interests were skewed towards research tasks, but I still wanted to, you know, keep my options open. I kind of presented myself as a UX generalist here, and then kind of did both research and design here. And I always like to start with introduction to the project, a quick intro slash context to, you know, what made me tackle this problem. And in a real world scenario, there's usually like one trigger point that led you to further dig into this problem space, whether it be like in a stakeholder conversation, or, you know, something your analytics team found out in data that was a little bit odd or, you know, interesting, or you were kind of already running some research and there was an area that you didn't quite get as much information as you wanted. Similarly, I started off by giving a bit more background on what I was about to dig deeper into. And so here I put some information regarding the headquarter cafeteria, which is going to be the main focus of this research today. And for your personal context, I was looking for ways to practice UX research in a more realistic scenario and get feedback from design and research managers at the Home Depot who were kind of working as like unofficial mentors back then, as I was considering internal transfer to enterprise UX teams. So folks at the Home Depot were so nice, like so nice enough to mentor me there while I was doing digital marketing there. While I worked at the headquarters at the Home Depot, I would eat lunch at the cafeteria every breakfast and lunch. The food there was honestly pretty good. It was super cheap, and then they had all kinds of food types. So they had like Asian, like Mexican, like American, like burgers, pizza, pasta. Like they had all sorts of food, like sandwich, hot sandwich, cold sandwich, everything. I really liked the food they had, but the only problem was that there were so many people crowding there at lunchtime, at peak lunchtime around noon, especially at the checkout register. So I remember they only took cash or what's called a Homer card, which is kind of like an internal debit card that you can only use at the cafeteria. I would oftentimes like run out of money loaded in the Homer card, and then I wouldn't know how much I had it in there, so I would have to go through the cash register and like realize that I don't have enough money. I'm short of like 25 cents, so then I would have to run to the ATM, pull money, add money into the Homer card, and then I had to like get in line again, and then like check out my food finally after like 20 minutes. So for me, the trigger point of this project was that I was a user myself, and that I noticed a pain point, which was taking forever to check out food at the cafeteria. I also included my approach here, which was super well-known like double diamond model, including both research and design tasks. I like doing this. I like including the approach because it's kind of like a table of content, and also gives you like a preview of what you're walking them through. I go into how I conducted the early generative study, starting off with the research goal at the top, and then here I wanted to understand users' checkout process at the cafeteria and uncover and validate any kind of pain points that they had. And with that goal in mind, I utilized user interviews to get some qualitative insights. I also included some of the details to the method of user interview, including how I recruited interview participants, and then the major kind of research questions that I had for this research. If I were to do this all over again, I might include a quick reasoning as to why I chose user interview as a method to answer this question. And then I kind of showcased how I synthesize the insights by color coding similar themes here. I love including like visuals to my work in progress because it helps visualize all the work that I did. So here you would see that all the color coding being done, and then coming out of the insights from that research, I had a follow-up question, which was, users say that they don't like carrying cash around, but how many people like actually use cash to pay for their food versus like the Homer card? Is this problem pervasive enough to invest time and energy into? Was another question that I had. So during the peak lunch hour on a mid-week day at noon, I conducted some field study where I observed and counted employees who paid with cash versus card across 25 people. So here I discovered that, hey, yes, it seems like a lot of people use cash to pay for their food. And then, right here I included that research shows that, a wide majority of users paid with cash instead of the Homer card. And I was curious why. And based on the user interviews that I conducted earlier, one user said, maybe it's because I'm still new, even though she was at the company for over a year. So I hypothesized that the low usage may potentially be due to the lack of awareness about the Homer card. I've connected the dots between like what I was seeing here versus what I heard at the interview. An upcoming research opportunity was, between the two methods of payment, my assumption is that the Homer card, like that internal card, takes less time to process payment. But how much more time efficient is a card, right? So sure, people use cash, but is the problem of like slow process really due to the cash versus card thing? Was my other question I had, and I wanted to validate that assumption. So in order to answer that question, during a peak lunch hour on a Thursday, I observed and timed 15 users who paid with a Homer card and then 15 users who paid with cash. Learning coming out of this was that first one is that on average it takes about 3 times longer time to pay with cash than to pay with Homer card, which is a lot longer than which really validates that statement. And then of the 30 people, 5 people, which is about 17% of total, had to leave the food with cashier lady because they were short on money and had to go grab their grab more money or grab change at their desk or back to their car. As part of defining the problem, I built this persona together around the types of users who may best benefit from resolving this problem and the solution, and focusing mostly on the pain points and the goals and needs of my target user groups. And then I put together what the thoughts and feelings changed over a period of time due to this problem statement. So both of the persona and journey mapping of thoughts and feelings were put together from the user interview. This kind of generative study validated a few different assumptions. Persona and the journey mapping of thoughts and feelings were put together from the user interview. The generative study validated a few different of my assumptions and kind of confirmed some of the problem spaces that I had assumptions in. So I was able to come up with this problem statement. The problem that I suspect is that the current methods of payment at the Homer Cafe, which is the internal cafeteria, are inconvenient and time-consuming. That employees want a quicker and more convenient way to check out the food at the cafeteria. And I came up with a few how might we statements. From here, I kind of brainstormed for some solutions to help resolve this problem. I believe that by creating a mobile app that employees can use to pay for food, view balance, and reload dollars, we will decrease the traffic at the Homer Cafe, expedite the checkout process, and allow associates to have more enjoyable meals. If I were to do this again personally, I would show my process to ideation and brainstorming that led to this single statement. I definitely did go through that process of jotting down some thoughts, some ideas, coming up with strengths and weaknesses to the solution and doing some SWOT analysis. But I wasn't able to capture this here. So it's kind of missing some details to my thought process, and seems like I kind of jumped into this conclusion from the problem statement. So here I came to this vague solution, right? But what would the solution actually look like, right? So I ideated for features that would go into the MVP solution versus some of the future state features. With that minimum features in mind, I did some research to gather some ideas around the solution. Yeah, I got inspired by the idea of the student ID and then the Starbucks mobile pay, and so I put together this MVP together and a quick wireframe that I put together here. To be honest, I totally ran out of time with this project. So this was around the time when I actually was wrapping up my time at the Home Depot. I wasn't able to gather any of the valuable feedback from this wireframe. If I were to complete this project, I would ensure that I do some usability testing or concept feedback study to get some feedback from potential users of this product. Yeah, so this wraps up how I put together my case study project. This was a super inexperienced, immature state with absolutely no UX experience. There are a lot of places that I would do differently if I were to do this all over again. So first one, at the end of this presentation, I kind of finished it off with a wireframe, but if I were to do this again, at the end, I would include a retro slide to include what I learned in this project. And what I would do if I were to do this again, similar to how I'm doing right now. It's totally okay if your research is flawed, as long as we are learning, right? Especially for UX research, junior UXers. Hiring managers love seeing researchers admit to mistakes and flaws, as long as they're able to learn from it and improve from it. So highlight it, right? Present yourself as somebody who can reflect back at themselves and learn from their mistake. Another feedback for myself is that I would make sure that there's a clear communication of reasoning for any of the research methods that I decide on. I really don't love that I put the name of the method at the top as a title of the slide and then, include the research goal under it. If you saw my methods video, you probably know that methods go under the big umbrella of research questions. So if you have a research goal and a research questions, that guides you to figure out what the method is, not the other way around. Third, you probably saw that I was a UX generalist in this case study rather than specifying UX designer or UX content writer or UX researcher. I have my reasons, and that was because I really wasn't sure what I was gonna specialize in. I really wanted to keep myself open to options. I just like the idea of UX in general. However, if you have passion for one particular pillar of expertise, for instance UX research, I would highly recommend that you make sure to highlight that and do just that. I would say other than like really small startups where they hire for UX generalists who do like everything from research to designing to content writing, most UX research jobs that I've noticed hire for either UX researcher or UX designer or UX content writer. Upon speaking to a lot of hiring managers, I've also noticed that hiring managers like to see clear direction from candidates rather than a UX researcher / designer / writer. I would recommend digging deeper into research or design or writing and then kind of dig into those tasks only to kind of showcase your clear interest and skill sets in a path. And one more thing is that if you're highly interested in UX research and if you have a friend who's highly interested in design, I think that's perfect for you to pair and do some type of case study project together. Even better if you have a friend who's interested in product management or becoming a product manager or an engineer. I think that's perfect where you guys can form a team. Usually like fake case study projects like this one are great for beginners, but the biggest disadvantage of this is that it doesn't really showcase your ability to collaborate with cross-functional teams, which is a huge skill set for UX researcher or designer. If you're able to showcase that and display that back and forth in communication, your shortcomings, your challenges of working together, also showcase how you were able to overcome those challenges, I think that makes your case study project 10 times more powerful. Another thing, if you're pivoting a career from another field, like for myself, I pivoted from marketing. It's super powerful to include some of those old skill sets that you've brought from pre-UX times as part of the case study project to prove that your past experiences can be of asset to your future role as a UX researcher or designer. For example, I noted doing some field study that was quantitative, or I analyzed numerical survey results, which connects to my analytical background. I did SWOT analysis, which I didn't hear, but I did SWOT analysis, which is a marketing tactic to understand opportunities of a product. I would be able to highlight my marketing background as part of the case study project and how connecting the dots between my background in numbers and qualitative methods to truly dig into the why is super powerful and beneficial. This was one of the very first UX research projects I've ever done in my life, and I feel a bit vulnerable with this, but I hope this helps you gain insights into how case study projects are put together and what you can do better than myself to really stand out against other candidates. To make you feel better, this is really incomplete, this is really imperfect, but I got my first few jobs using this exact presentation. I think the biggest benefit of case study presentations are that you're able to really walk and talk your hiring managers through your thought process. If there are challenges and obstacles throughout your case study projects, I think that's a bonus point because in real world projects, there's always got to be obstacles, there's always got to be challenges that make your project go into so many different routes and ways. So if you've gone through any of those, if you've ever worked with somebody to together to put this case study project, I think those are awesome. If you had to take a roundabout and had to, if your case study project wasn't, in a straight line like this one, I think that makes your case study project even more powerful. Just know that, yes, case study projects can be like, something like mine tends to be like in a straight line, but if yours was in a kind of like in a circle of motion, or like if you've had to go through a few different steps to get to this wireframe, that is even better. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you found this helpful at all. Let me know how else I can help you. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and bye!